All right, friends, 8 o'clock Eastern, Wednesday night. You know what that means? PGA Live Before Lock here at Stokastic, presented by Prize Picks. We're back. We got a full field to break down for the Sony Open. I am Ben Rasa. That is Geoff Ulrich. We're ready to go. We had a little opening in Hawaii. Why not stay on the island? Everyone says it's very nice out there. I wouldn't know, but the players certainly think. We're going to talk about what happened at the TOC. We're going to talk about all the value we got going on. And of course, we're going to break down everything you need to know this week. We're talking a little before the show about various things, but you did mention to me that you had some money on Morikawa, and you did the good thing of capturing that value when legitimately it looked like he couldn't possibly lose.
Yeah, that's the nice way to put it. The other way to put it is I just took the coward's way out and, got scared that John Rahm was on the leaderboard. But, I did mention on the show yesterday, I was going to be FOMO betting Morikawa regardless of when he was still in the 20s early on. And I thought I was really smart to do that for 3 3/4 rounds. And then, the self-destruction happened, as is prone to do in golf, man. Even the good players do it. So good reminder that, no lead is ever safe. But yeah, was very happy to have been paying attention, because as I also mentioned to you, I wasn't paying attention at the Sony Open last year when I had money on Russell Henley and he blew a 5-shot lead on the back nine and guy came away with nothing. So
yeah, that is a thing that can happen. And certainly what I always find interesting about this event is that the top of the board is usually littered with players that played last week, and a lot is made of where they finished. And we've also seen time and time again, it really doesn't actually matter at times how you played at TOC. You can flip it very, very quickly. As Decky kind of showed, he wasn't particularly good. And we've seen that time and time again. Kevin Na comes to mind as well. That's always an interesting wrinkle, because we do have some of the big names making the trek here. Not really a trek, considering they were already on the island. Before we dive into Prize Picks and Waialae and all this stuff, do you have anything else from the TOC that you want to mention? Because most of the guys like Rahm and Morikawa, they are not here.
Not really. It's just, it's one of those warm-up events where, some guys were just lost on the greens and yes. Just they kind of, it almost feels like they gave up, trying to putt well. Hanley, Scott, a couple other dudes, I went through it and threw out a tweet on some of the worst putters. And those guys aren't good putters anyways, but those greens are so much different from what we're going to see, even in just the next couple weeks, that I think that you can kind of just take last week with a grain of salt. It was a big, it's kind of a quirky course in a lot of ways. If your guy played well, I guess that's fine. But it's really one of those events where I don't really take away much from it. Even recent form, I feel like we've seen so many times where guys 2 years ago came and did nothing and then won. It's just what it is. It's just a fun little event, and some guys will play really well and come out sharp, and other guys will look bad but really didn't play that poorly. So I don't have a ton of takeaways from that event most years.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I did see your tweet. You mentioned how radically different the greens could be, and maybe it's a good idea to possibly just buy on some guys who really struck it well and just simply couldn't get it going with the putter. Everyone got 4 rounds as well. So, we got to see the putting woes for 72 holes with some of these guys. We're going to get into that. Our man, Dan, love the show, had Morikawa last week. That hurts. That is just such a bad way to start the season.
Yeah. It took me 6 months to get over the Henley loss. I'm not even kidding. I had wins too, come right after that, and I still couldn't believe it. That's how bad it was. So I do feel with the people who did it. In all seriousness, it sucks, man. It is a bad way to start if you had Morikawa, and I know a lot of people did. So yeah. We'll bounce back though.
I haven't gotten over multiple. I'm not going to say it's not bad, because it is. At least with a guy like Morikawa, you'll have many opportunities to right that wrong. When it's someone like Henley, you genuinely wonder, will I ever get that money?
Yes. that's
and
a
in my
great
case,
point.
With my guys, the answer is profoundly no. With Bo
I'm still waiting on the Louis Oosthuizen and win. So
Noren.
Noren. Yeah.
Don't get
the list goes on.
The list goes on, friends, but let's talk about capturing some value, and the easiest way to do it is our friends at Prize Picks. They sponsor PGA Live Before Lock. They've been with us. They were with us all last year on this very show. And we've got some things going on. If you don't play there, it says it on the screen, and it's on there the entire show because it's important that we're going to match your first deposit up to $100 over at Prize Picks. It's a great opportunity. You get over there. We talk about props throughout this show, and that's what you're doing. You want to sign up over there. Again, prizepicks.com. You see it on the screen. All different types. Birdies are better. Strokes gained. Matchups. Greens and regulation. Just a lot of cool categories, Geoff. You always talk about Prize Picks. You can take advantage of these courses, particularly early in the year, and parlay some of these choices up.
Yeah, last week was interesting. I mean, I think that early on, actually, like the play was kind of to go against like the lower scoring and take some unders on guys early. I think that probably paid off, especially in the first round. But, again, like this week, I almost feel like the scoring will almost be better. Like we have really, really just ideal conditions. But the one thing about Waialae, fairways, really impossible to hit. Guys can go low here with like hitting like 5 fairways. So, just looking right off the bat, I mean, even a guy like, like Tom Kim up there, we got a 10 fairway mark on Prize Picks. Certainly something to think about. Brian Harmon's up there. I mean, even the shorter hitters miss fairways here. So, I think that's one place that I know I'm going to look at tonight. Probably putting together a couple tickets.
All worth checking out. Again, use that. You say it, free month of Stokastic Plus up to $100. Again, all sorts of good stuff. But let's talk about what we're attacking here with Waialae, because we move, I'd say, to a pretty drastically different course. Now, I still think it's going to be easy and you'll be able to score, but it's different skill sets. It's different layouts. Certainly, there's only 2 par 5s. Talk to me about another course that we've seen quite frequently over the years.
Yeah, just in terms of Waialae, I mean, Waialae is nice because it is like a big change from last week. I mean, flat greens, way smaller greens. They're harder to hit, but they're way easier to putt on. So, already talked about the putting regression that we're going to see. But what that does lead itself to is this basically comes a putting contest, right? I mean, like I know one stat that we saw throw out, I think this is a good way to just summarize it, is the winners here have gained the total number of the biggest percentage of their strokes for the week with the putter compared to any other event. So that lets you know right there. Like, I mean, this is a spot where, if you're just an elite putter, you can kind of pop up. And we've seen that with guys like Na and Kuchar. So harder to hit fairways. It's more just about placement and power. And I do think that off the tee here isn't something that you necessarily need to just like not look at altogether. I think that it's actually a pretty solid tiebreaker here. You can't get in trouble off the tee. So you're not going to have guys hitting into the ocean and taking doubles, but you can block yourself off from birdie opportunities. And I always come back to like the par 5 18th. If you don't hit a good drive there, you limit your eagle opportunities. So if you're looking at anything to break ties, look at strokes gained off the tee. And you don't need a guy who's belting it, but just someone who's been consistent in that category, I think is like actually a solid way to maybe think about maybe even just being a little bit different this week, is emphasizing that a little bit more.
Yeah, there's definitely different ways to go about it here. No one, or I don't think, is going to tell you that you have to be a bomber by any stretch of the imagination, but there are ways to work it around here. Certainly getting a hot putter would help, but good luck predicting that. Other than that, we know guys are going to need to go low. It's a pretty weak field. It's a full field event. I know we have a lot of people checking out golf for the first time this year. And we're going to go over some things that maybe are a routine for some of us. But last week we only had 39 golfers. This week we have, 100 plus golfers out here. You got to make the cut. And we're looking for that 6-6 percentage. Not that really goes into your skill set, because you're just looking for guys that are going to gain, certainly with the approach, with the irons. I'm not doing anything special with skill set stacks. I'm also, Geoff, we didn't really talk about this. I don't see a huge split. I've seen some people talk about PM, AM, maybe a slight bump, but I'm not getting crazy with the weather.
Yeah, definitely not with the weather. Like the weather this week looks pretty benign. I mean, the one thing that I do notice, and I think this is just more about the climate than anything, that the afternoon players do tend to maybe like they've popped up more in the first round leader category, but I mean, that can be a whole number of factors that lead to that. So I don't think that the weather is going to lead you to any splits. If you're talking about showdown, maybe you go like a little bit heavier on the afternoon wave. And because I do think that the greens here, because of the high humidity, maybe even get more receptive in some regards. But again, it's kind of just, slicing hairs here. It's not a big deal. The weather this week doesn't look like it's going to be a factor. I know it's on the ocean in Hawaii, you think wind, but this time of year, it's almost always calm. And this year, I mean, I'm expecting 23 under par again. I think that with the conditions, you'll probably see that.
No doubt about it. Let's get in to the golfers themselves. Again, if you got questions in the course, we'll be happy to answer them, but got to start. And I guess we got to start with Tom Kim. That's what the pricing is telling me. Tom Kim is the lead dog. Sanjay, Hideki, Jordan Spieth, 4 10K options from 10 to 10.5. So a crowded little range. Obviously, it's no surprise that these guys are going to be pretty popular. I think Hideki's pretty clearly the lowest owned of the 4. But the question of society right now, when I leave my apartment, even people who don't know golf, they say to me, "Are you fading Tom Kim?" And I tell them yes, and then I'm shunned. Are we going to continue to fade this guy? He was 5th last week. He's unbelievable right now.
He is, but I mean, is this the peak? Is this like $69,000 Bitcoin, man? I mean, I don't think Tom Kim's Bitcoin. He's not going to be going on like a huge downturn anytime soon, but this is a player who's now 10,500, the most expensive player in the field. I mean, there's no more, he got like a T4 or a T8. Tom Kim's rolling again. We need him to really kind of win this week to pay off. And I mean, he's a favorite, and I was really impressed with how he handled Waialae, how he handled Kapalua for the first time. I thought that might give him a little bit of trouble, but this is also just a more technical track where the winners here, they all play here before. They've all experienced Waialae and gone around it, and they know the angles. Is it enough to like stop a future superstar? Probably not, but is it enough for me to stay off him at 10,500 on a week where he's gonna be very popular? Everyone knows who he is now, and everyone wants to play him. Yeah, it's enough. So yes, the answer to your question, we're gonna fade him again.
Yeah, that's right.
We're just gonna keep doing it. Why not?
Very, very popular. I give people a sneak peek about, part of the reason you want to become part of the Stokastic family. I mean, he's pushing 25%, and the margins are really, really thin. Like he's not making a cut and it's, he returned value. He needs a serious showing here. Can he do it? Absolutely. The guy is an elite player. There's no doubt about it. But you have Sanjay Im at relatively the same ownership. You have Jordan Spieth at a discount, and then you have Hideki at straight leverage. We'll get into the balance build, omitting all 4 of them. But I do want to ask you, if you are going to come underweight in Tom Kim, is there one other guy up there that you are saying, okay, this is where I want to put my chips and get over the field?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, this is where the ownership projections on Stokastic just really, really can help you make some decisions. And it kind of just takes it out of your hands, like instead of being like, I got to predict every week and I got to figure out which one of these 10K guys, the ownership just lets you, it just kind of frees you up. And, I don't necessarily love the way Hideki's played, but I prefer Sanjay over him straight up. But like in a GPP with Sanjay basically pushing the same percentage as Tom Kim, there's not even a question this week that Hideki Matsuyama is the play to me. He looked fine in spots last week. He clearly likes these greens, and Hideki's been a bit of a horse course. And the one thing that this is really interesting about him, and the shorter courses, and this is something where, again, if you're getting into the research, par 70s under 7,200 yards, Hideki's top 5 strokes gained total, just strokes gained everything, birdie rate. He really likes these kind of setups. And there's a couple other golfers that I'll mention that I think are going under the radar too. But Hideki from the top, I don't even, again, it's just an easy decision. You use our ownership projections and you gain leverage, and that's pretty much the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at leverage. It's interesting. Shout out to Toma in chat, who said, and I think this is an interesting point, no reason to fade. There are 100+ others to pair him with. No cut event fade. I get it. Not for this course. I actually respectfully disagree. I think that when you have a cut, I'm more apt to roll the dice on higher owned guys, because if we get variance and he has a sluggish start, he's out of the tournament.
The cut for this event last year, Ben, was 5 under par.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about one bad putting round and you're not making the weekend. Like, I mean, maybe he could come back with the 6 under par. Maybe he misses a 5-footer on the last hole and he just misses it by a stroke. Happens every year at these low scoring events. So yeah, I get it. Like, this guy might be the next Tiger Woods, and he maybe just won't miss cuts ever. That could happen too. But I mean, for the percentages that we're talking about, I think it's well worth a shot. So Hideki for me, in the top range. That's where we're going.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth. I just think that I saw enough last week, got some reps in. I don't mind the course for him. He's the cheapest of the 4. I actually think I kind of like this setup for Spieth. Like most guys, he's had some experience here. He doesn't play here all the time, but he was 3rd in 2017. That was the height of his powers in some regards around there. So I'm not getting crazy with cherry picking a result. I just like the way Spieth's playing. You still have a ton of mobility with your lineup there. I do want to ask you, though, do you have any interest in going like Decky Im or Decky Spieth and being aggressive 2 north of 10?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I do think that like this with the way the setup is, and just because it's such a putter heavy course where guys can get hot, like it's not my favorite build of the week. I would rather take shots with a more balanced build, because as the chat kind of is pointing out, I know the chat is trying to make the Tom Kim argument for it, but there's plenty of value guys who will be lower owned as well, and we can go balanced in a way that will still like give us leverage and not have huge ownership attached to it. So it's not necessarily like, it's not like I wouldn't write it off, but it's not my favorite way to build this week at all. I think on these courses, the balanced approach is usually the better one, to be honest, because these type of events, they're just very putter focused, and they bring in just more players who are capable of getting low. And we've seen it at this course before. We had like a Snedeker Gomez, like playoff, the Hoagie, Hahn, and like Patton Kazire. I mean, these players are not elite, but they're very elite putters, and it can spike on a little technical track like this.
Let's stick with the top range and just open it up a little bit before we move to the mid range. I want to talk about Tom Hoagie, Russell Henley, Brian Harman. These are names. We saw these guys last week. They are the top of the 9s. Are you okay starting with one of them and saying, I'm going to, build more balance? We got to get 6 through. I want more equity, or not equity, I should say, but more salary for the bottom half of my lineup. I'm going to start with some of these guys rather than pay up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, Harman is interesting to me this week. I really do think like he could be in for a good round. He didn't putt well last week, but still played pretty good. I would definitely lean Henley though. Again, like I can't emphasize this enough. When you put Russell Henley on a course like this, like it's just, he talked about it. Like you can go check out my Twitter feed and the quote, but he's just like, the advantage weighs to me here. I hit a ton of fairways off the tee. I don't have to hit it long, and I just can go and just get dialed in with my irons. And then I like the greens more because they're easy and they're flatter to putt. You put Henley, like the best short iron player in the world, on a course like this, he can get to 22 under, 24 under, which he did on basically what I would call probably the most similar setup on tour in Mexico to what you'll see this week. So yeah, I think Henley is fine to start off with. I think there's just as much upside with him as going with like a Spieth. Is he as good as Spieth? No, but we're on a different kind of track here. This isn't Augusta. This isn't necessarily a longer track. Like Henley is all kinds of multiple shot upside here. So I don't mind Harman, and I certainly don't mind Corey Connors, but I think Henley to me would be the starting point here. My 1A to like any kind of build with where I'd be starting with a 10K guy.
You mentioned Russell Henley, just his result is meaningless because he lost 6 strokes putting. Like when you do that, you take yourself out of any relevant contention. If he does that here, he won't be relevant again. But we've seen Henley. I don't know. Of course, he flipped at Mayakoba where I can't see the strokes gained, but that's neither here nor there. You get it. I'm gonna go with Corey Connors here. I really like the spot for him. A lot of what you've talked about, I think, is applicable to him. He got his reps at Sentry. He wasn't ice cold with the putter, but he did nothing with the putter. And the thing I look for sometimes is when you have a guy that we know what Corey Connors does. He's a really good ball striker. His irons and his ball striking is the strength of his game. There are certain courses that even bad putters seem to like. And it's a volatile sample, but Corey Connors has played Sony 4 times and he has gained strokes putting in all 4. So I'm talking about a guy that struggles with the putter going to a course where he has gained strokes putting 100% of his appearances. You sync that up with his ball striking, 4 for 4 on made cuts. I think he checks the majority of boxes for me. I think Corey Connors is live. I bet him. I like him quite a bit here.
Yeah, there's no blowback from me there at all. Connors eats up short courses too. I talked about the strokes gain stuff. Absolutely. Right up there with Hideki. I think Hideki's like a great comparable because they're both elite ball strikers. And if the putter just works even a little bit, I mean, man, like he could just be, everything could just be clicking here, kind of like when he won in Valero. So yeah, no, he was the first guy I looked at this week as well. I just got a better number on Henley. I was considering them both. So I like a Henley Connors, pairing could even be a good thing, but I think starting, if you're going to go balanced, I would probably rank like Connors and Henley, like 1A, 1B for me, for sure.
Let's talk about the mid-range. Also going to talk about in just a few minutes. We've mentioned our ownership. We mentioned our projections. You can get all of that for 5-day trial for free. You don't have to do anything except click a link. And I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But I kind of want to move to this next tier. It's the lower nines. Billy Ho, Keegan, Maverick, and don't even get me started with Taylor Montgomery, he's in the Tom Kim range of an arch nemesis already. What do you see here? Probably going to be more your second man in than your start.
Yeah, I may give Taylor Montgomery a little bit of my time this week. I'm not going to lie. I may jump ship on you, Ben, here. Like what we've seen from him is just, it's very putter based, but like, that's not a bad thing this week. And I think that also the other thing that you could make this argument about Tom Kim, but Tom Kim is also, projecting with, insanely high ownership and, is just like, an easier fade at 10,500 in some ways. Montgomery doesn't necessarily have that ownership. I think that, I hearken back to Russell Henley when he first came here and he wanted his first go around. I just wonder if Taylor Montgomery potentially has that same capability because he's such a high end putter and he's already got some confidence. So I don't mind Montgomery this week. I would actually rather play him than Mav for sure at 9,100. McNeely to me is just one of the most overrated players. It's not that he's bad. It's just like he always seems to just be overpriced. I think he's way overpriced, 9,100. And the other player that I have interest in is Keegan Bradley. I do think he's like just more of like a top 20 play. He's definitely safe. I think the upside is with Montgomery though. And I'm going to get some exposure to him this week.
I don't know what to do with Taylor Montgomery, and that's not this week. I just don't really understand because he's a
putting god. He's like the end boss of
like, apparently he's on a different, just for some insight. And I've talked to a lot of really, really smart people with golf. Shout out to Rick Rungud, many other people who said this guy's like on a different level with putting. Like he's not even like an elite putter. He's like in the long drive competitions. Every so often we see one of those guys on tour and it's like, yeah, he can drive at 370. He has no other part of his game. Taylor Montgomery is in like the world putting competitions. That's how good he is at putting. It's kind of absurd.
So it's simplistic, but my view is this is a course where elite putters have shown up, and I know it's his first time around, but he's putted well at pretty much every venue that he's seen on the PGA Tour up till now. I don't think it's going to stop this week at all. I think where you might want to start fading him is at some of the tougher courses, like a Torrey Pines or something like that, or Riviera, where the greens are really tough for everyone, even the good putters. But I won't be shocked if he goes nuts again and ends up like 7 strokes or something, in that category alone. So I don't think this is a spot to fade him.
He's not that popular. I'll give you that. Like if he was pushing Tom Kim level ownership, it would be easier.
And now you'd have a different argument for me then too. But the ownership again, guys, you come over, you get the discount week or the month with Stokastic, and you use all these, and it just makes your decisions easier. And it made my decision easier on Taylor Montgomery this week. So
no doubt. And I'll say that right now. Perfect segue. If you're looking, like I said, we would love for you guys to stick around for a long time, get in the ropes, but why not just check it out? Free 5-day trial to Stokastic Plus for golf. It's all you got to do. It's in the bottom It's in the description. It says free 5-day trials to Stokastic Plus. You click it. You sign up and you're going to get 5 days of our platinum tools, the ownership, the leverage, pro plays, all the stuff that we reference and we talk about. You get a chance to see what that's all about. Maybe you use some of them for a week and see how you do. If you win, maybe you stick around. That would be awesome. We obviously want you guys to try this stuff out, give us feedback, and ultimately become part of the Stokastic fam for free. What's the difference? If you don't like it, you've lost absolutely nothing. So give it a shot. No reason not to. But let's keep going down. And now we're in that mid-range tier. KH Lee. Adam Scott is a guy that you seem to be pretty high on last week, and I'm going to beat you to it. I'm going to jump on him right here with Cam Davis as well. JJ Spawn played last week. Killa Keith is here. The 8K range is thin in terms of there's not a ton of names, but I think all of them have reasonable cases to be in your lineup.
Yeah, no, agreed. Like this is a range where this week, like you said, it's hard for me to make arguments against some of these guys. What we can start with Scott again, just terrible on the greens last week. But you know, again, like he's underrated at some of these courses. You know, he's finished second at Hawaii and at the Sony before. He's won a Colonial. He's won a TPC Sawgrass. He's top 6 and in strokes gained tee to green over the last 50 rounds on par 70s under 7,200 yards. He's fine here. Can he get to 23 under? I mean, you say, well, that you know, it's maybe not his game, but like, is it really Hideki's game either? Like he's a better putter than Hideki at this point in his career. He has been over the last couple of years. So I think he's fine. I like the way he struck the ball last week. It looked like he was going to go on a couple runs, but like the putter just never cooperated. So I'm fine taking one more shot on him. He's certainly going to be lower owned. KH Lee is a guy I actually don't mind fading here. Has never really figured out this course. Kind of did it all with the putter last week. And he just seems, again, like I'd put him in the same vein as McNeely here. Like I like them, but I like them when they're 7,700, not like 8,700 ranked in front of Cam Davis. I think KH Lee is actually a pretty solid, easy fade candidate because you do have like the birdie maestro there in our friend Cam Davis, who I really like. I bet this week he eats up short courses and his putter improved over the fall. And just one final thing, I am really big on these early season events for the guys who played in the President's Cup for the international team. You may say, why? Who cares? It's their first time around. You gain a lot of confidence, man. That's how Cam Smith basically came here in 2020 and played in the President's Cup, got some confidence. I think he beat Justin Thomas in singles, and then he came and won his first PGA singles event. So could Cam Davis do the same thing? I don't know, but I do like the fact that some of these guys, Connors included, Bez, I think it's a big thing for them to get that on their career belt over the fall, and it'll just lead to good things early in the season for him.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to push back. Cam Davis is an elite scorer. If you're looking for someone, if they make the cut to outscore their placement points, it's him. Now he has a problem with double bogeys, but I think that flares up more as we get into the season where, you know, you're in Florida and you hit into the ocean. Yeah. You know, like he should be all right here. And I really do like the spot. I want to echo, though, what you said on KH Lee, who's a dangerous player. And again, it's not cherry picking, but if you have the results in terms of course history for him at events, he seems to be the type of player when he plays well at a place. And I'm not just saying Byron Nelson, where he won back to back. He's got a lot of events 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 3. Like, where he struggles, and where he doesn't, he doesn't. And that's just kind of how he is. And Sony so far is looking more like Shriners and Farmers and some of these other places where he's just literally never had success. So at 20% ownership, I'm okay coming in under. I would rather play the guys we just talked about. I want to ask you about 2 different players, though, right below these guys, and JJ Spawn and Keith Mitchell. What do you make of them? Spawn is someone that I've always said if he could stay healthy, I expect big things, and he's healthy, and he hasn't missed a cut since August. His form is very, very good right now. Yeah,
it is. And I feel I'm a little bit more like I kind of like fading Spawn here too, but it's with less enthusiasm than the KH Lee thing. He played pretty well last week. He really hung in tough too. But it's a long walk last week to be in, especially to be competitive for all 4 rounds. I agree with you. Like, he's a solid player. And when I'm glad that he's finally found some consistency, because he can really light it up. He's kind of a fun player to watch. But he's got names underneath him, man, like Mitchell, Siwoo, Bez, even Putnam. Like, I'll take a look at it. I just think that he's just overpriced from last week. And I think what you're seeing in some of the pricing here is, it's almost like they've like the sites and the DFS and the betting, they finally caught on to this Hawaii thing where the guys who played Maui have such a good success rate. And that's why you're getting JJ Spawn and KH Lee at 84 and 87 instead of like 78 and 8. Like, it's just that, they're giving them that Maui bump. And if this was like I don't mind doing it with certain players, but I'm not going to pay up for JJ Spawn when there are like 5 competent players right underneath them. So I think that he's a fairly solid fade candidate. I think, again, that sentiment is also going to lead itself to a lot of high ownership on players. We just talked about KH Lee. I didn't even know KH Lee was trending with 20% ownership, but it doesn't really shock me. So I like Keith Mitchell. I think that Bez is probably the tournament play for me here. A guy just with, I still think, plenty upside. Played well here last year too.
No problem with it. Again, I'm interested to see. So JJ Spawn, the problem I have is what you alluded to. A lot of what the time to buy, you want to keep going to crypto analogies. This is like, there was so much value on him, and now it feels like we're buying the top a little bit. Even, he seems like he's in good form. He seems like he's playing well. That's just, you're paying the premium for JJ Spawn in this spot. I'm okay with it in spurts, but man, you got a lot of names that I'd rather get to. And let's round out this range before we get to the sevens. Bez, not getting a lot of love. Elite short game, elite putting. Obviously, Griot is always a smash play. We know that. I don't know what to expect from him, but I do like the spot. His putter late in the year seemed to find some things. I think Sony's a pretty good course for him. Make the cut. And he's in a range where he can just make the cut, give you a top 20, and we move on with our lives.
Yeah, I mean, Griot at 8 flat feels like a good price at the very least, right? I think that Griot, I would say, is like a fairly safe play. He's made the cut here a ton, doesn't hate the course, hasn't gone nuts here before, but at the same time, that doesn't mean, Hideki hadn't really done much here before last year. So I kind of put Griot in that Connors Hideki range where the putter shows up one year, like he's going to finish top 3 because he's certainly capable. So no problem there at all. I just think that, again, when you're considering Spawn at 84 and Griot at 8 and the ownership that's probably going to come on these two, it's not really even, it's not really even, it's not a close thing. It's just, you take Griot, I think. So yeah, I like the price on Griot too. I would probably say, Mitchell, just with the ownership, I think you can almost just bypass everyone. And if you want to play a low owned Bez, that's fine. And if you just want like similar kind of production from that you're going to get from like, or that we've been getting from like a higher owned Mitchell or even Spawn, just play Griot. Really similar kind of output over the fall, and lots of upside still.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There are definitely options there. The last guy, and they're all about the same own. No one's going to sneak up on you. Andrew Putnam, he's just doing what he does. He's a good putter. Not going to, off the tee is never the strength of his game. He can mask it. I'm fine with that. I do prefer Griot and Bez, though.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's get to the sevens. Now it starts to get where you have multiple options, still firmly in the mid-range, no doubt, but Denny McCarthy, who formerly was the putting god, he's got to feel like garbage now that Taylor Montgomery took his trophy. Matt Kuchar, Smalley. I want to talk. I know that you're a Harris English guy, and I am not. JT Poston, Woodland. There's a million names. Kurt Kitayama, maybe a dark horse here. What do you see in the upper sevens?
Yeah, man. I mean, like, I don't want to say there's no wrong answer here, but like, there's a lot of different ways we can go. Smalley is like the guy who's probably popping on everyone's models and stuff, like really consistent, was really firing with the irons to end the year, had a couple really nice starts. It's his first time around though. He's got to figure out the greens. So will that happen the first time? I would say probably he's an okay fade candidate just because of the course that we're going to be on. Again, you come back to the setup, like when you're looking at this range, there's players like Woodland who could certainly play well, and Woodland's played well here in the past, but I think that this is a good range to start really emphasizing like guys who have that weapon in their bag. Like we're getting JT Poston here at 7,700. Yep. He's played well here in the past. These are just the courses where he can eat him up. And I mean, Poston could get you a top 3 finish here, and like no one would be overly shocked. So I think he's really interesting at 7,700. He didn't do that much last week, but he certainly wasn't terrible. And then yeah, I really don't mind Harris English. I guess I mind him from the fact that I guess everyone else is on him. I'm a little shocked of this. This is like the most shocking projection. Apparently he's going to be like a top 5 owned play. So that kind of takes him out in my mind of like someone that I necessarily need to get exposure to. I may end up just betting him and then just not worrying about him for fantasy purposes, because I'm not going to play a 7,800 player who's like top 5 in ownership. That's just not what I want to do. So I will be looking in this range for just basically pivots, because I think everyone is kind of live. I don't hate Denny, to be honest. He was really consistent off the tee to end the year, and he's still got that putter in him. Shot 64 here. Only finished T48 last year, but shot 64. So I actually don't mind Denny. Feels like people maybe have got off him. And then, Kitayama is kind of always in play for me. I don't know if I love this setup, but this is just a range where I'm just going to try and avoid the heavy chalk, basically.
Yep. Same thing for me. I have my, you can always check out my tweet where I give a couple plays, a lot for fun, but Harris English is the fade on it. And it's not because I hate the spot. I'm not playing Harris English at 20. You're talking about a range where we start to get into, there are pivots, a couple $100 that are 1/3, 1/4 the ownership of Harris English. Like I have to explore that. I would take Poston straight up over him. And then I would certainly look to some of the guys as we get lower, like Kirk and Hardy and Sig and a million names that I could be on board with. So I get it. I guess I want to ask you about one name, because, the theme of what you're talking about is guys that can really roll it, from Harris English to Denny to Poston. Mackenzie Hughes, probably another one. There's a couple guys in between them, though, that absolutely can't roll it. And Hayden Buckley is one of those names. And he really came on. He's making cuts. He's starting to eclipse. We were saying he's making cuts, but he can't crack the top 20. 19th at Sanderson Farms, 20th at Shriners, 5th at Zozo. Where do you have him, or is he just on the outside looking in?
I mean, you could definitely think about him as like the pivot option in this range. I mean, he's making cuts. I mean, he's certainly taken, hasn't been like hugely disadvantaged at like some of the other shorter courses, because like Mackenzie Hughes probably going to be the chalk in this range. Svensson will get some ownership, but if you want a player who's probably going to have like 5% ownership in this range, that's probably it. I mean, I feel like every other player will have at least a little bit of ownership on him. So Buckley is like that 2% play that could easily pay off, which always like, should kind of interest you. I feel like that's probably what he's going to be. Admittedly, like I don't have his ownership projection right in front of me, but
I will say he's projected higher, but I think he's going to come in sub 10%, and with a crowded range, I think he would be definitely a pivot off a guy like Mackenzie Hughes, who's going to be popular.
Yeah. So fair enough. I haven't thought about Buckley too much this week, but again, like there's no one in this range that necessarily, like I say, I have to play. So Buckley has been the most consistent probably of the people in that range. I mean, Hughes has played well late, but I just don't want to play like a popular Mackenzie Hughes. So I think between him and Woodland is kind of like where you have to question yourself. I don't know if I'm done with Gary Woodland, but I don't really want to invest in Gary Woodland. So I would probably say Buckley is like preferred for me there.
All right, we've got to the part of the show. First of all, I'm going to ask for some likes. See, I know all the regulars watching. Let's pump those likes up. We're going to get a couple here. It's been one of the themes of the week. Webb Simpson, the man himself. He destroys this course, but is he healthy? That's the question. Is course history relevant if you're not the same golfer? These are what we're dealing with. And he's $7,400. And the way it's shaping up right now, most people are saying, I'm going to wait and see. It's not chalk Webb by any stretch. Are you waiting and seeing, or are you saying I'm going to go with the guy that, when healthy, tears this place apart?
No, I'm kind of out. I mean,
Yeah,
Webb's had he's had a nice run, but it's also a player who like he's not going to get there with you for distance. Like if his ball striking is a little bit off, like if he starts to miss a couple more fairways, if the proximity goes down, like that's it. That's his game. The putting can also come and go for Webb. So I don't really feel the need to do that at all to myself. I mean, I feel like we're kind of seeing a golfer in decline, and maybe he gets it back at some point, but like, we're not talking about like, this isn't even like a Ricky Fowler situation where it's just a younger dude going through like a bad patch. And maybe the bad patch is more than just a bad patch at this point. It's a concern, but he's still young enough where like, maybe he can reach that elite style again. This is probably a golfer on the decline where maybe he's got one good run left in him, but do you really want to waste your time like trying to guess when that is? I mean, if we see it come back from him, I'll start playing Webb at these courses again, but I'm not going to try and guess. No way. Not when you got like Svensson there. Brendan Steele is a good play down here. We mentioned Sig.
Jaeger.
So no, I'm haven't even thought about Webb Simpson this week.
I'm with you. Listen, you already said it. If you want to make a hero call and say Webb's found it and he's going to conjure it up at a place that he loves and you get it right, you'll get paid off. I won't. I'll let other people do that.
The most likely scenario for Webb Simpson is he makes the cut and he finishes like T40. Yeah, that's not going to win you any money.
Want that?
So, yeah.
No. Now, I'm probably going to play Jaeger, and maybe I should just play Webb just for obvious reasons because I don't know what to make. But you've mentioned a lot of guys, and I know this is kind of your account here. Doesn't this guy fit some of what we're looking for in terms of elite short game? He can roll it. That's kind of what I want in terms of my profile here.
Yeah, he's played here a few times before too, which I mean, I don't mind. Look, I bet him. I mean, it's kind of funny because like I initially bet Russell Knox in this range, and I like Knox, but like who's more likely to get to 22 under par, Knox or Yager? It's Steven Yager. So yeah, he's got that putter that can pop and probably will one day for like 7 strokes and win him an event. I don't think anyone's going to play him this week, are they? I mean, maybe. I guess he's kind of in a rate. He's pretty cheap, so maybe people will get on him, but I don't see him being supremely popular or anything like that if he does get some ownership. So he's got some ownership on him. These guys are all a little bit more popular. Everyone's too sharp these days, Ben. I don't mind him this week. I don't mind Knox either, but I feel like Knox is more of like a top 20 play who is, if he makes you the cut, he's going to get you a high finish, but he's still certainly got some miscut upside. I think that Yager probably is like the really upside play where, if everything goes right, he could actually win this event. So
we're going to round out the 7K range. Then we're going to talk about the cheapies, give some hot takes. You know how it goes. You said, I believe Harris English, when you looked at the ownership, kind of jumped off maybe as the most surprising popular guy. To me, it's Robbie Shelton. I thought Robbie Shelton might be a pretty reasonable play. I looked at him and I said, okay, flat 7. This guy's playing pretty good golf. 15% owned at flat 7 potentially. I don't understand that at all. I'm stunned at the buzz that he's getting. And that makes it really tough for me to click his name unless I've leveraged somewhere else. Again,
people too sharp here. I mean, it feels like he's a good play, and I don't have like a huge argument against him. Was really hitting it well into the fall. Seems to like these kind of courses, played well here last year, but like we got to play some leverage here. We got to get some ownership. I mean, we got like a guy like Mark Hubbard down there, who's also like popping for me. I mean, he's at 2.2%. I'm going to play Hubbard. I mean, I think that, this is a veterans course anyways. Shelton's still a young guy. Like, you could, I don't love David Lipsky. You could look at him. Ryan Palmer, I think, is in play. I mean, just with the course history. So yeah, I was surprised to see that too. Little bit disappointed, but also like, this is why you can't get too attached, and you should, you can play some chalk, but man, that is a really high projection. And if that becomes even like if that becomes even 80% of what we have it projected as, he's going to be a very popular play in this range. And there's enough talent in this range still. You guys, Sam Ryder's down there too, who I actually don't hate this week, that we can find good pivots.
Yeah, and I kind of want to just dive into that before we move to the salary savers. It's not something, at least I wouldn't advocate to say, okay, this guy's popular, so I can't play him. That is not what at least I'm trying to say at all. What I'm saying, though, is that early in the year, we don't know where these guys have been. There's so much variance to begin with. If I have guys closely projected and one is 15% and one is 1%, is he 15 times as likely to beat his neighbors? I would say no. So when you're trying to beat 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people, I'm going to probably look to roll the dice and just hope we get carnage around the cut line. And there's just not that many 6 of 6s because this is early season golf. And I don't think anyone go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, again, I come back. The cut line is 5 under par. Like Robbie Shelton hitting it great. Could he come to an event like this, sink no putts for 2 rounds? Yeah. And miss the cut. And he's 7,000. So just be mindful of like what kind of event we're at and what we're playing with. It's high variance, man. Like Ben and I don't know what's going to happen either. I mean, Robbie Shelton could come and gain 8 strokes putting, but we do know that the players around him have very like similar capabilities. Some of them have been hitting it just as well as him, and some of them have more experience on these greens too. So there's players that, like you said, just have very similar projections and are going to come in way lesser owned. So
yep, no doubt about it. Yeah, of course. Like when Robbie Shelton wins the event, it's just the nature of the beast. But I actually like Robbie Shelton in life. I can't believe he's that popular. All right, it's time for the salary savers. Sub 7K, the cheapies. So we got a lot of names that I legitimately don't know who they are down here. We're going to have some fun with that. But we also have got some guys, some of the older guys like Ryan Armour, Sink, Bramlett, a lot of names, because Scott Piercy's down here. When you looked at the 6s, I certainly thought there were playable names. Did anyone catch your eye?
Yes, but there's no one that I necessarily love. Sorry, I'm just loading my sheet here. I'm going to start off with a couple names. David Lingmerth at 67.
Oh,
yeah. Let's get real crazy here. I mean, look, played pretty well over the fall. His, like, the ball striking was a little bit up and down, but like the putter for Lingmerth, really interesting. And this guy like loses strokes putting, and then he gains like 6 strokes. Played well at RSM. He's played well here before. I wrote him up for first round leader bets, and I kind of like him this week, to be honest. Yeah, 6,700. Again, guys, like Lingmerth could come and just be trash, but he's got that ability on a birdie fest course to just light it up with the putter. And I think that he's an okay tournament target down here. This is like the kind of player that I want, accuracy driven. And then this is the dude I'm really interested in. I'm going to get some money on him tonight. But Harry Higgs, I can't remember if we talked about Harry Higgs in the fall or not, but he was really struggling. He was really struggling, and he's more. He's not a long player. He's not a bomber, but he's a pretty confident guy, and he's come close to winning a couple times. His game, it came around at the end of the fall. He can get hot with the putter too, and I think it's a good course for Harry Higgs. And he's only 6,400. I look down in that range. I see Aaron Baddeley. Oh, I got another player down here too, actually,
Zach
which is
Blair.
just, you're going to throw up when I mention him. But like you got Glikic, you got Zach Blair. Like Higgs is the closest thing we have down here to like a real player, in my opinion. He's come close before. So I like him. Those are 2 players to start off with. I'll save my final just awful idea for the end.
All right. So I'll start at the top. I'm okay with Sam Ryder. You mentioned him early, just elite upside. This guy can get crazy hot, flashed. I do think you can comp this a little bit to what we saw at Mayakoba. That's good for your boy, Russell Henley. I think there's some definitely parallels. Lingmerth came in 8th there. Sam Ryder came in 8th there. Lipsky came in 10th there. Taylor Montgomery was 10th. Doesn't mean that's where they're going to finish, but I don't mind looking at that. If you want to go there,
I'm just going to make him my Coba lineup. I'm just going to throw all those guys you mentioned in one now.
I mean, again, when we talk about skill set stacks and stuff, you can comp them. What about Bermuda Benny? Ben Martin. I think he belongs in the conversation a little bit. He was 21st at RSM. His putter's hit or miss, and that's putting it mildly. I worry a little about upside with him. We really haven't seen it in quite some time, but I'm going to put out some names here and see if I can land any interest, because I'm stunned that you said Harry Higgs. One name that for a while people were saying this guy is the future, and he either took longer than expected or he's not, is Cole Hammer. But Cole Hammer did finally flash some form. He had done nothing. He had missed 6 straight cuts, came in 27th at Houston, and then followed up with a 5th at RSM. Gained with the putter, is off the tee game this week. Is Cole Hammer maybe a buy low spot, or is that just a flash and we want to wait and see for more?
I'm probably gonna wait. Like the RSM thing was definitely caught me off guard, but there's no harm in betting on talent. Like if you're just like I'm looking at these names and nobody stands out. Like Cole Hammer's probably easily the best player down here. Like you're not going to get an argument from me. I mean, so he's certainly the player who could like pop up and over the next 5 years, like be the highest ranked player from this range. There's no doubt about it. But it's his first time playing. He's had like one good result. We haven't seen him for a while. If he starts off slow, would I be all that shocked? Not really. But if you want to play him, like it's fine. I mean, it's like we're in the 65 range. No one's going to be highly owned down here. Or at least they shouldn't be.
No, they're not going to bet.
No, they're not going to be. So yeah, Cole Hammer, absolutely fine. I get that argument, and I don't mind it at all. Like I said, and hey, at the very least, like RSM, like where he's played well is at least very comparable to this week, which is kind of nice. Like you mentioned, he's not really strong off the tee. This isn't going to stress him a lot, but it kind of felt like maybe he just caught a little bit of magic in the bottle there at the RSM. So it's basically just a wait and see scenario for me. I'm going to wait and see on him.
All right. So the people want to know how egregious is it like real bad? I mean, I got some names, but
do you want to take a stab at it, or do you want me to just?
I mean, I thought that Brian Stewart was in play. I'm going to save maybe some of my thoughts on him for later in the show. I'll just, here. I better not be Zach Johnson.
It's not Zach Johnson. Okay, Jesus.
Okay. Ban you from the show.
It's Michael Kim.
Yeah, that's
6,400. Made 2 cuts to end the year. Gained strokes off tee and on approach. Michael Kim is what he is, man. I mean, he's just I don't even know how he won that event at the John Deere, but a guy who missed
strokes putting helps. But.
A guy who missed a million cuts in a row and then came and win an event, he gets a little bit of respect just in terms of being mentally strong. If you can do that, you can dig yourself out of some holes. I'm interested. He made 2 cuts in a row to end the year, and he's saying big deal. But again, the ball striking flipped. This is a player who has proven, like, you get him on these courses, he can fill it up. So it's 6,400. It's wild. It's completely unnecessary, but I will not be shocked if this dude shows up a little bit this week, and perhaps even, if the putter gets going, things could happen. So it is that type of event, man. Like when players get hot on these greens, again, Fabian Gomez, Snedeker. I mean, I can name off some names. So we had a Han Hoagie Kazire duel one year. Like it's not out that outlandish to see a player like that get involved. So yeah, it's wild. It's crazy, but Michael Kim is, I guess, one of my hot takes this week.
I'll give you another guy before we actually get to the hot takes and bounce on out. And this guy, you could take this 2 ways. You could say, well, if he's been on fire with the putter here every year and he still sucks, why would I want this guy? But there's a guy in this field, his last 5 appearances here, he's gained 2 or more strokes on the greens every time, and he's an elite putter. And I'm talking about Peter Malnati. And that's a guy that, again, he's 6,400. He's struggled, but when he gets going on the greens, I mean, on the short list for guys that I wouldn't want to mess around. He's the type of guy, if you're looking for a crazy first round leader bet, talking triple digits, he can get hot in spurts, like showdown. Someone like Malnati, I wouldn't be stunned to see that type of player pop up here, maybe for a little while, or maybe even to stick around.
Yeah, no, and I'm just looking at his screen splits. They're pretty crazy here, man. Like, 2.9,
Crazy
2.2, 4.5, 5.5. Struggled last year, but yeah, you're right. I mean, like, again, all these guys we're talking about, they have one thing in common. Most of them are just like really, really elite putters, and it's carried them a points in their career, either to big rounds or even like big stretches. So that's who you should be targeting when you get down here. Again, no must plays down here at all.
No.
I think Cole Hammer is the clear talent, but everyone else, you just need to, I think you should ensure that they have that out for you, which is getting you a million strokes with the putter.
Yeah. And I will say, kind of to round it out and give my final thoughts before we move to hot takes, I'm comfortable landing in the sixes. I don't see a huge difference early in the season between the mid sixes and the low sevens. So if you want to go aggressive, like, I have no problem taking a couple guys up top and one more towards the 9K range and saying, I'm going to spray and pray with some of my lineups. These 6K guys, I don't know who they're going to be. You're going to see multiple 6K guys return massive value in this tournament. I have no doubt about it. So I'm okay landing with some of these randos down here.
You can really load up on like the guys we talked about in the 9K range and really the 8K range. Like you can load up there. You get an even just one 6K guy. And if you double dip, I mean, Connors, Hideki, Harmon, you'd start like you can kind of do a million things. So on a course like this, where you're going to get some random names popping up, it's not a bad idea.
Not at all. All right, friends. It's about to get a little dangerous, a little steamy in here. Hot take time. You know how we do. I do want to say once again, shout out to Prize Picks. Shout out to Stokastic, even though I work here. We got free trials. Again, links in the description. If you want to get stuff, if you want that free month, you can sign up and Prize Picks. You get the $100. You get the free month. If you just want to try us out for 5 days, right there for free. All great values, all great opportunities. All right, let's do it. It's hot take time. Last week I said something. Justin Thomas didn't have it. JT Boston was fine though, so I don't get credit for that. But it was.
Yeah, you had like a mild take and it didn't.
Yeah, it was mild, so that's okay. I'm gonna get pretty aggressive here.
Yes,
so.
Let's do that. Go for it.
I talked about him a little bit. I'm gonna give you a 22-1 top 10. 22-1 for a top 10. So we know what we're dealing with, and everything that I just said about a guy like Malnati, I think is applicable to Brian Stewart in the low depths. A crazy putter, a Bermuda splits putter, a guy that at times when he doesn't have it, I mean, he's going to miss 5-10 cuts in a row, but he also pops up randomly. And it's at weaker field events. It's at shorter tracks, 9th at Honda, 7th at Corrales, 16th at Valspar, peppered with miscuts all over the place. Now, I don't think he's in form. That could be a slight issue, not going to lie, but hard break. Maybe he found something. We're going to find out at 22-1. If you're looking for a complete dart horse, I think you could do worse than him. He's got plenty of experience at Sony. And man, let's look at this course history a little bit going back. 5th, 6th, 4th, and 8th over the last 10 years. He's shown he can do it. You're going to give me 22-1 on that? I will roll the dice with a truly low-owned Brian Stewart this week.
I mean, you're besting me in the odds here, which I'm honestly I'm a little surprised, because my hot take was get the placing on David Lingworth, but we're only getting 12 and 5. But I do have the ace in my sleeve that Lingworth has actually played well recently,
and he's good. Yeah, he's a professional golfer. That helps.
But there is that. But I do like Lingworth this week. Again, like a player who we've seen on tour. I mean, like he won the Memorial, like a pretty big event. Was consistent for a while, and I think this is just a really good setup for him too. So much like Ben said, he's not going to come in here and feel slighted or feel like he can't compete. I think he'll take some of that confidence. So Lingworth, plus 1,200 on a top 10 for him. And I just like him for DFS. So I'll stay away from trying to predict a winner this week. If it was, I'd probably say Cameron Davis, but I'm gonna go with Lingworth as my hot take for a top 10.
There we got it. And we got a hot take from chat. Mike H. Hot take, Smotherman top 20. He's a name that at times was making cuts, doing some things. Yes, Brian Stewart. If you look at the stats, you will be led not to him. Let me tell you, that's why it's a crazy hot take, friends. That's what we do. We're going to bounce on out of here. For me, Jeff, Forrest Jordan Klein behind the glass. Thanks again for tuning in. Next week, of course, we're going to be back doing this. And I will say, we're going to add a new feature. We were doing this last year. We're warming up. Me and Geoff each week, we're going to build a lineup to end these shows. So starting next week, get prepared to see some dangerous things with our lineup builder. Excited to dive into that.
Nice.
Good luck, everybody. Enjoy the Sony Open. If you have any questions that we didn't get to, at the Fantasy Grind, at JazzRaz DFS, make sure to follow us and take advantage of everything we got going on here at Stokastic. We want you as part of the family. We appreciate each and every one of you. But until next time, again, good luck. Enjoy the tournament, and we'll talk to you guys next week.